Tonight on CTV, the midterm elections in Colorado are here, featuring a CSU campus visit for Governor Jared Polis.
Then take a deep dive into off-campus and affordable housing, as well as the skateboarding culture of CSU.
All this and more, tonight on CTV.
Good evening, Rams. I'm Mattison Brumagim.
And I'm JJ McKinney. Thank you for joining us tonight.
An extremely contagious illness is skyrocketing across Larimer County, and no, it's not COVID-19 or the flu. More than 300 positive tests for RSV were processed in UC Health Network labs over this past week. Respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, is a common but contagious virus that causes infections of the respiratory tract. RSV is the leading cause of hospitalizations in infants, and hospitalizations across the state have increased. Dr. Brian Money, a pediatric hospitalist with Banner Health, said a surge of this illness has taken over pediatric rooms in Larimer County for the past 3 weeks. Although symptoms include a cough, fever, or difficulty breathing, RSV is rarely fatal. RSV does not impact the little ones, the most, especially those under a year old, but adults can also get RSV and pass it on.
Colorado residents may get ticked off after a new research study from CSU finds that ticks have spread all over the state, carrying infectious diseases. The study, funded by the Bear Area Lyme Foundation, found that Rocky Mountain ticks and American dog ticks are present in 16 counties in Colorado. The ticks, that are known to travel on both humans and dogs, were not previously attracted to these communities by the CDC. These ticks are capable of carrying diseases like Rocky Mountain spotted fever, Colorado tick fever, and tick-borne paralysis. The study consisted of multiple universities, including Northern Arizona University and the Translational Geometrics Institute. Researchers came together to track these ticks and their movement habits in hopes to find a solution to this problem that could be thought of soon.
Diabetes is the 7th leading cause of death in the United States. With November being National Diabetes Awareness Month, certain individuals share their experiences in regard to this disease.
My total was like $448.
Diagnosed with diabetes at age 9. Started off as just a normal sickness. I had a blood sugar of over 600. Next thing I know, I was being life flighted to our nearest hospital. Went into diabetic ketoacidosis coma, also known as DKA, for 3 or 4 days before I really woke up and realized what was going on.
11.3% of the United States population has diabetes, but there are 2 types of this disease. Type 1 is a genetic condition that often shows up early in life, and type 2 is mainly lifestyle related and develops over time.
A normal person, their pancreas produces their insulin. In my case, being type 1 diabetic, my pancreas produces no insulin at all.
With type 2, the body is unable to make enough insulin, or the insulin it does make doesn't work properly.
Diabetes overall is a very manageable disease if you learn to just take care of yourself and watch what you ingest into your body.
Although diabetes can be managed, it is still the 7th leading cause of death in the U.S.
When it comes down to it, my mom died because she did not manage her diabetes. Over time, it turned into type 2 diabetes. It was really hard for my whole family because we were like, you have to take care of yourself. You are going to die if you don't start taking this more seriously. I know for a while she had trouble getting enough insulin purely because of how much it costs. So I think there was a lack of, knowledge on our part and also on hers. It's the I'll be fine kind of attitude. There was a lot more that we maybe could have known and could have done.
Although the number of adults with diabetes has doubled over the past 20 years, 23% of adults with this illness are still undiagnosed.
Citizens across Colorado and the country head to the polls on election night. Voters who are unable to mail in their ballots had the opportunity to show up to the election polls here, where Larimer County citizens and beyond were able to register to vote, receive their ballot, and fill out their sheet at the voting stations. From sunrise all the way to 7 in the evening on Tuesday, residents were making their voices heard. As the ballots rolled in, election officials were tallying up votes to see who would be the political leaders of Colorado. Now with the results in, the runners go as follow. Jared Polis remains the governor of Colorado. Joy Nagoo stays the Colorado's 2nd Congressional District's congressman. Michael Bennett still secures his spot as senator. And in Larimer County, Democrat John Keflas remains county commissioner.
A new Colorado law allows prosecutors to charge individuals who distribute fentanyl or fentanyl-laced substances in the case of a deadly overdose. Northern Colorado Drug Task Force Commander Ian Stewart said the illicit drug market in Larimer County and statewide is, quote, flooded with fentanyl right now. Prior to this law, the district attorney's office wasn't involved in investigating overdose deaths. Law enforcement will now investigate each overdose like a suspected homicide. Last year, about half of the accidental fatal drug overdoses in Larimer County involved fentanyl. Narcan, one of the only ways to fight an overdose, is available from pharmacies without a prescription. The Murphy Center in Fort Collins has a vending machine for people to get free Narcan kits and fentanyl test strips. Another issue still consuming the minds of both CSU students and other Fort Collins residents is affordable housing.
However, some may not know what affordable housing is or how it impacts the community. So, here to give us a deep dive into this issue is one of our CTV directors, Naomi Hillmer. Naomi.
Thanks, JJ and Mattison. Finding a place to live in Fort Collins is no small feat. With housing and rental prices increasing each year, it makes it more difficult for students to find affordable housing. Colorado State student Alex Prast spent his summer couch surfing as he searched for a new place to live.
Oh my gosh, being homeless was wild. It was an experience for sure.
With housing being too expensive and rental properties continuing to compete, which drives up prices, Prast still has to work overtime just to afford housing.
We can't afford that. We're students. Like, I'm working 3 jobs. I can't balance all that.
In the past year and a half, rental prices have skyrocketed, with the price of a 3-bedroom apartment going from nearly $1,700 a month to $2,400 a month today, an increase of 40%. Of the nearly 300 apartment complexes for rent in Fort Collins, less than a third are available right now, and only a handful are the cheapest option, studio apartments, which aren't much bigger than your average kitchen. But Prast is not alone. Recent CSU graduate Mary Cummings is also working 2 jobs just to cover rent.
Yeah, so most people I know work 2 jobs, if not more. Like my roommate last year was working, I think, 4 jobs.
Living in a duplex right across from campus, Cummings lives with 4 other roommates, splitting the house and some bedrooms in half.
The girls who I live with upstairs, Abby and Katie, share a room, which is actually right behind me, and they pay significantly less than the rest of us just because in addition to, sharing common spaces, they're also sharing a personal space.
One of the most sought after jobs as a student is working right here on campus because the jobs are close by and the hours are flexible. But like most minimum wage jobs, it's just not enough to pay rent. At the College of Business IT program, Adam Mader pays his hourly students as much as he can at $15 an hour, but he knows that they're students first.
There are studies that show if they do work 40 hours a week, their studies begin to suffer, which go figure.
Richard Feller is one of the few Fort Collins landlords who rents his properties below market value.
Nobody making $15 an hour can afford to live in this town, regardless of age. It just seems like the greed issue is a concern, and also how do we treat people the way we want to be treated?
Experts say you should spend no more than 30% of your paycheck on rent.
I think I pay 90% of my income on rent.
And when it comes to budgeting, the first thing to go may be surprising.
I think the biggest thing is food.
I usually just go to Walmart or King Soopers, and it's still super expensive.
We all know it's better in other places, but we want it to be better here.
Finding a place to live in Fort Collins can be daunting, but CSU and the City of Fort Collins have some resources to help students, such as CSU's Off-Campus Life and Fort Collins Housing Catalyst.
Those are some great resources, Naomi.
How else might students find a place to live in Fort Collins?
Well, there are a few things that students can do while looking for a place that can benefit them. After speaking with a local landlord, he let me in on some tips to use while applying. The main points being, ask questions to your renter if what they do and do not include into rent, and maybe have a letter of recommendation from a previous renter or even one of your parents. It's also important to have a good relationship with your landlord, almost like a business relationship where you're both benefiting. And when it comes to student spending, consider the 50-20-30 rule, which is a little bit different than the 30% rule, where you spend 50% of your income on rent and essential spending, 20% on savings, and 30% on anything else you want to buy.
That's amazing. Thank you very much, Naomi.
Thank you for having me.
With that, we're going to take a short break.
Afterwards, Tiaira Johnson will join us to provide the weather rundown for the rest of the week. Stay tuned.
Good evening, Rams. My name is Tiaira Johnson, filling in for Adam Carlson, here to bring you the weather rundown for the week. Temperatures continue to drop, so let's see what's in store for us. Starting off with our current conditions, we can see we have a high of 36 degrees with wind speed of being 9 miles per hour. So if you plan on going outside, plan on bringing a jacket and a hat because it is chilly. Next, moving on, we can see that Gunnison and Telluride have a 6 and 9 degrees for our overnight lows, with Grand Junction being 23 degrees in our southwest corridor. And as we move along our I-25, we can see Denver and Colorado Springs with 22 degrees, and we have Pueblo being the highest of 27. Moving on to the eastern side, we can see both Burlington and Lyman with a high of 18 degrees and Lamar of 25. When looking at tomorrow's highs, we can see our southwestern plain with a high of 42 degrees in Grand Junction, Telluride, and Vail with 21 and 31. Along our I-25 line, we have Fort Collins and Denver being a high of 40 and our Colorado Springs of 37 with the lowest. And as we move on to our eastern plains, we can see Lyman and Burlington and Sterling and Lamar, they're all in the highs of 40s. So when we look at tomorrow's temperatures, we can see a high of 40 degrees and a low of 16. And looking at the wind, we see 5 miles per hour, so it's not going to be as windy as it was today. Moving on, we can look at our five-day forecast. As we can see, it'll be in the highs of 30s all week, with Wednesday being the sunniest of 36 degrees and our coldest being 33 on Friday. And that brings me to the end of tonight's weather for you all, but stick around, JJ and Mattison have more news after this.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back from the break, Rams.
One thing that I'm sure was on everyone's mind this past week was the midterm elections. With these races determining who keeps control of the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives, citizens vote on key issues. Candidates across the country encouraged everyone to vote as well, and Colorado was no exception, as Governor Jared Polis, Senator Michael Bennet, and Congressman Joe Neguse made a surprise visit to campus to talk to CSU students.
Students were eager to see Colorado's local politicians when they made their way to the middle of campus Monday afternoon. Governor Jared Polis, Senator Michael Bennet, and Congressman Joe Neguse were all on the campaign trail as Election Day came racing in. And with this election being so important to the control of Congress, the candidates let their political plans for Colorado be known.
Students have a direct role to play in shaping our democracy. When you think about the challenges that we face as a society, whether it's climate change, whether it's rising income inequality, gun violence, and so many other challenges, they impact young people most acutely. I believe that young people have to be part of the solution.
Over half of young voters want their candidates to be mindful about issues like gun laws, green energy, and student debt.
We also need to make the cost of a college education less. There's a lot more we need to do, but we're really focused on making sure that higher education isn't out of reach for any family, no matter how much they earn or where they're from or their background.
Each candidate is already incumbent in their positions, but are up for re-election. Polis against Republican Heidi Ganahl, Bennett against Republican Joe O'Dea, and John Neguse against Republican Marshall Dawson.
What to do is fight for an economy that when it grows for everybody, not just the people at the very top.
The main takeaway the candidates wanted students to hear was the power their voice holds in the country, as every vote counts.
Sometimes I hear people say, the system is corrupt, and why should I participate in a corrupt system? The more corrupt you think the system is, the more you have to vote. Colorado is the second highest voter turnout in America. We should be number one.
We reached out to Polis and Bennett's Republican opponents, Heidi Ganahl and Joe O'Dea, as well as the Office for Colorado Republicans, about the Democratic candidates' visits and the election. But so far, we have received no responses. CSU was just one of the stops on Governor Polis's campaign trail, as he was spotted at CU Boulder the following day on Election Day.
Another event that occurred on the CSU Plaza recently was the First Generation Student Event. With more information is our live reporter, Abby Flores. Abby?
Thanks, guys. Ever since the Higher Education Act of 1965, more opportunities opened up for people to pursue a college degree. First Generation Day honors this, and CSU had a celebration for it last Tuesday on the plaza. First Generation Day was just last Tuesday at the plaza. This annual event celebrates a great legacy CSU carries. Everyone has a story to tell, so I decided to get a closer look.
Being first gen is super important, especially here at CSU, and especially for our first gen student population, which is a lot. It's nice to have a community, and sometimes just being on CSU ground, you feel a little bit alone and kind of isolated from everybody else and not as knowledgeable. So we wanted to dedicate a day especially for them.
For a lot of students, this identity is something that is very personal and deeply rooted in their families' backgrounds, their support systems, and so it means so much more than just being a college student. It's an identity that has shaped their journey to get here.
Some will never know what it is like to be a first-generation student, but a day to acknowledge the experiences means a lot.
For me, being first generation means that I'm paving the way for my family, for my younger siblings and cousins.
A lot of people see it as a setback, but I think I see it as a unique personality trait to me, and something that I can use to kind of push myself forward to stand out, be that better person that I'm destined to be.
Expanding my own roots and starting my own legacy.
For me, I would say it's the same. It's just acknowledging my parents' sacrifices and have the capacity to come to an all-white institution and just connect with other students as well.
Having the strength and putting yourself out there to do something that no one ever has done in your family, and just making myself proud and pushing myself to pursue my goals.
You belong. You 100% belong on this campus. You have what it takes to get that degree, and you're more than enough and fully capable of so.
As a first-generation student myself, I found what everyone had to say very insightful. I'm so glad everyone was able to get together and have a great time. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Abby. With the holiday season just around the corner, many animals are waiting for their moment to find their permanent homes.
That's right. Our reporter Kate Sherman joins us live in the studio with more on our furry little friends. Kate?
Thanks, guys. Adopting a furry friend from a shelter can be a great way to find your perfect pet. And animal shelters around Fort Collins are filled with adorable animals looking for their forever homes.
There are many animals in the Fort Collins area looking for a forever home. Shelters in Fort Collins are holding a variety of sweet animals. Adopting an animal from the shelter also has some great perks too. You could help save an animal's life, and it's also great to support local shelters and all that they are doing for these animals. Adoption can be a much more affordable way to find your new best friend. There are young and old animals all looking for their new owner. I talked to Jordan Dunn at Animal Friends Alliance on why she thinks adopting an animal from the shelter is the way to go.
Adoption is always an amazing choice because there are so many animals across the country, millions every year, that go into shelters and never come out. In Colorado, we're really very fortunate. We have such an amazing bond with pets here, cats and dogs. It's really a great place to be a pet, but in other parts of the country, pet overpopulation is such a critical issue that friendly adoptable animals are euthanized every day just because of overcrowding. So we try to do our part to help connect people to animals and make it so that adopting a shelter animal is a really easy, great way to add a member to your family. And it prevents animals from ending up in shelters and being euthanized in shelters, and provides great loving homes for animals that need them.
There are some great animal shelters around town, which include Animal Friends Alliance, All Aboard Animal Rescue, and the Larimer County Humane Society. Each of these organizations are so easy to go to and meet all the animals. I had so much fun going to these animal shelters and learning about all of the amazing furry friends. Remember that adoption could be a great way to find your new pet.
Wow, that was cute. If you're in need of some furry companionship, make sure to stop by one of these wonderful shelters this National Adoption Month. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Kate. I just love animals so much. Like, I have a dog at home too, and I was able to see him this weekend, and it just brought me so much joy.
What kind of dog?
He's a pit bull, and I know people think they're really like aggressive, but now they're like soft animals, and he constantly needs affection because he's very needy.
Yeah, my best friend has a pit bull. His name is Max. He loves me, and I just can't wait till I have a puppy of my own.
Of course,
honestly.
So lovely animals. And the CSU's campus has many diverse cultures, groups, and individuals.
One group that is very prominent on many university campuses is skateboarding.
That's right. And here to tell us more about this culture is feature reporter Zoe Hayman. Take it away, Zoe.
Thanks, guys. Skateboarding has come a long way in the past 50 years. What people used to see as an activity for delinquents is now an Olympic sport. Here at CSU, the skateboarding culture is alive and well, and I had the opportunity to drop in and see what all the hype is about.
Hey guys, it's Zoe Hayman here, and I'm at Northside DIY Skate Park to talk about the CSU skateboarding community with sponsored skateboarder Lucy Heller.
My name is Lucy Heller. I'm a sophomore at CSU, and I've been skating for 8 years. Going to CSU has really improved my skateboarding because I learned how to skate in high elevation after living in Chicago, and also like the environment is so different. It's so sunny. I could skate like all year round and not freeze to death.
The environment change only motivates her to skate every day.
My favorite part about skateboarding is the feeling when you land a new trick, and just like those huge sessions where you're with a bunch of people and everyone is just like smiling and hyping each other up.
For every trick Lucy lands, there's about twice as many falls. But what's important is every time she falls, she gets back up again.
All around at CSU, everyone who skates, the skate community here is like insane. Everyone is so nice. It's like so welcoming, and I just love it. And the rise of girl skateboarding is like growing so much, and the more girls become confident in skating, the more it will continue to grow.
It was so awesome to see how women's skating is on the rise and how Lucy is making a name for herself here at CSU and in the skate world. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Zoe. And with that, we're going to move on from the half pipes and rails onto the fields and courts.
After the break,
Leah
Cackowski joins us to provide the layout for this weekend's mind-throwing marathon of sports. This coming up on CTV.
Jason, let's go see your room.
No, that's not right. How was it? Is it good?
How's it going, Rams? My name is Leah Cackowski, and welcome back to another week here on CAC's Closeout. Tonight, it's all previews for Saturday, as I'll specifically be giving you rundowns on volleyball senior night, and then football's battle with its rivals up north. All of that and more right here on CAC's Closeout, which starts right now. Crank it out. Now, before we get into senior night, it'd be silly for me not to discuss the Rams' ongoing affair over in Moby. CSU New Mexico tipped off about a half an hour ago, so let's see how it's holding out. So New Mexico is currently leading the first set of a score of 20-16. Some notable Ram players are Malaya Jones with 3 kills, and Kennedy Stanford and Karina Lieber with 2 kills. No matter the final result, though, I'm not too worried because the Green and Gold still have one more shot at home before tournament play commences. And speaking of which, this Saturday, the Rams actually will host the Air Force Falcons, and this will be a match to remember for multiple reasons. For starters, it'll mark legendary coach Tom Hilbert's last home regular season match, as he announced his retirement on Monday. But if that wasn't enough, it'll also celebrate 3 amazing players for their leadership and tenure here at CSU. Sierra Pritchard, Annie Sullivan, and Jackie Van Liefde are all approaching the end of their collegiate careers. And it would be an understatement to say that they've been valuable to the Rams' success over the years, accounting for over 700 total sets played between the 3 of them. And with that in mind, here are some notable facts about each. First up, we have the oldest and probably most well-grounded of the bunch. Preseason, All-Mountain West setter Sierra Pritchard is in her 5th season, redshirting all the way back during the Trump midterms. It's no shock she ranks 6th in all-time careers assists at Colorado State with over 2,700. Like, are you kidding me? Sierra also has her fair share of blocks, proving that she can be an asset anywhere. Next up, we have 6'1" outside hitter Annie Sullivan. Now, Annie hasn't been here as long as the other 2. Nevertheless, she became an absolute weapon the moment she set foot on the Moby wooden floor. After transferring from High Point following the 2020 season, she immediately morphed into the stalwart culture and constantly found ways to contribute. Her 262 kills in 2022 are good for 2nd on the team. So yeah, her presence will surely be missed. And finally, we conclude with who I believe to be the heart and soul of this squad. Like Pritchard, Jackie Van Liefde became a Ram back in 2018 and actually appeared in 15 matches as a freshman, but redshirted the succeeding year. Jackie has the team's highest hitting percentage, registering at an impressive .377 clip. She's also one of Hilbert's most efficient blockers. I'm sincerely going to miss hearing her name announced too. These seniors have been so fun to watch during my time covering them, and I am confident these girls will really demonstrate their dominance in a couple of days, as they prepare for a pretty bad Air Force squad. If they stick to their game plan, this should be an easy win. Tom and the seniors deserve it, and I'm excited to see how it turns out. But unfortunately, Rams, that is all the time that I have for you tonight here on CAC's Closeout. Be sure to tune in on Tuesday for another edition of Tuesday Night Sports. Our director, Brandon, is amazing at his job. Stay safe, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you then.